Hello everyone, and welcome back to Talking the Red. Here we are going to be discussing the final fight of the new Eden raid, which dropped this morning. So this fight is a lot of fun. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time before we get right into it. Just again, another reminder that this is a casual look at various fights for new red mages, and of course gives an opportunity for experienced red mages to come in, give their own comments, talk about some strategies a little bit, see what works and what doesn't. As we get ready to go on in here, this is probably one of my favorite fights. I believe this was also one of my best performing ones. So we'll go ahead and jump on in and get started here. So we obviously go ahead and start with our ready check. And then, of course, I go ahead and get my con espresso here ready to go. The official name of this is Eden's Gate Sepulchre. You guys would know it as Titan. He looks a little different than we remember, as you probably have noticed by now. That becomes very, very, very important here in just a little bit. Thankfully, we have two dancers in this fight, which really, really helps out in the end. I believe we ended up one-shotting this. I pulled around 10.8k, which is really, I'll take that for a pug. But yeah, so we start off very, very strong on this. Nothing super fancy as far as an opening is concerned. But you do get straight into his mechanics right away, so I don't waste any time trying to do modification or anything like that. You're already moving way too quickly right off the bat for that. Now, as you've probably already noticed, a lot of this fight is based around that grid system that you see on his platform. You're going to be playing around with that pretty much the entire fight. Here we get into the first melee combo, and my embolden right there. Now, he does change up a lot. I think out of any of the fights that we have done so far, he is definitely, you can tell he's the last one of this particular tier. There's just a lot of stuff going on. Now, stuff like this you'll probably recognize as being a Titan-esque mechanic. It's something that seems very familiar, but again, with a little bit of a twist on it. So you do have to find the jail that does not have the glow to it, get behind it, and then later on he is going to have the usual bombs. So keep that in mind as well. So here, this is kind of the tricky part. Because it's such a large AoE spread, it can be very hard to try and find the right angle that you want to get to, but as you can see, we managed to do it. Now, his first transformation here, you want to go ahead and get right in the center of him, and then you're going to move off to the side. Now, it's very important to keep track of which mode he's in, because that is going to change around quite a bit throughout the fight. He has two particular modes for normal. We'll have to see what happens with savages. There we go. I think I got a res in there. Now, early on, it's not too crazy. However, later on in the fight, when he enters these forms, he stays in them for a very significant amount of time, and it's just one mechanic right after the other. So it's very, very, very important to get used to them as quickly as you can. Now, here you've got the jails. You see the big one. That is a room-wide blast, essentially. So you want to try and find either the corners or anywhere at the very cardinal directions tends to be pretty safe. Keeps you from getting hit with the small bombs as well. There's a very, very small safe zone there. So go ahead and stay here. He's going to do another jump. And again, try and find that right angle. You have a little bit more room than it looks like to actually get in and be safe. Now, for his tank mode right here, you actually want to stay to the side. He is going to knock you back and out of the line AoE there. And as you can see, a couple of my guys actually got hit. We'll get them back up and running here in just a few moments. And once again, that's another mode. You're going to have a ton more coming along with just that one straight shot. A little bit later, he'll be taking turns, and essentially you have to kind of turn with him the entire time, always making sure to stay one field on the safe side to make sure you're not going to be getting hit with that. As far as red mage playability goes, this really isn't too bad of a fight. There is a lot of movement, but because it's a lot of pre-positionals and very well telegraphed early on, you're able to kind of position yourself to get into your casting position fairly early on. Here we've got some more bombs going, same as the original Titan. Just kind of keep an eye on the glow order of operations, and you're pretty much good to go. It's really the individual forms that have been giving a lot of people trouble so far. Get back into our melee combo there. Soundtrack, of course, Sokkin really outdid himself with this one. It's a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed this fight. I'm kind of scared of what Savage is going to be like. It definitely gives itself a lot of possibilities. It would be interesting to see if he gets maybe a third form. It wouldn't surprise me with how they have done Savages before, so, anything could possibly happen. We'll just have to wait and see. Stonecrusher, I believe, is a raid-wide AoE, if I remember right. No, that's the Tank Buster there. So Stonecrusher is your Tank Buster, now you know. But he does have a room-wide AoE that you do need to keep an eye out for as well. There we go. And I do try and save my Korra core there to get back to him as soon as possible. Now, he does not alternate forms, you'll notice, so it is not one right after the other. He can do 2 in a row, at least from what I've seen. So here you've got his form staying along the fault zone. So you really have to kind of keep an eye out of where your safe zone is without necessarily getting too far away. And then you have to get back in for magnitude 5.0 after, I believe, what was that, 4 different turns? So it's a lot to keep track of, and just kind of remembering your positions, getting there in time. He moves pretty slow, to be honest. I mean, I would kind of expect it for Titan. Very slow, but very, very powerful moves. So once you get the hang of it, it's really not too bad, but it is one of those fights that can be very difficult to learn. Very, very easy to make a mistake and wipe just in one shot. He has a lot of mechanics that just straight up push you off the edge. So the more you can get it in, the more practice you can get in, the more you can learn it, the easier time you'll have. This is probably one of the harder parts here, just trying to manage both the bombs. As you can see, I did get hit on that. Both the bombs and the big block AoEs. But thankfully our healers were up, and I believe at some point I did do some emergency heals. As a red mage, you really want to avoid pressing Vercure as much as possible if you have healers up. But once you get used to some of these fights, get used to what your HP is like and how much damage these individual moves do, sometimes it is a judgment call. In progression, sometimes you just know that the healer is not going to get it in time, or something, you've got a vulnerability on or something like that. It's perfectly okay to cast it, just don't make a habit of it if at all possible. You want to save those heals as much as possible for the healers. Now, Berets could be a game saver. That is one of our strongest abilities, so a lot of times, as long as I have mana, and if Lucid Dreaming is coming up soon, I'm not afraid to press it. I can definitely get a raise up a lot faster than the healers can, and then it gives the healers a chance to focus on healing. Red Mage, if we're using Lucid on cooldown, we'll get our mana back fast enough. That's really not a big issue. Alright. So here you see the full combination of his big brute phase. I don't really know what else to call it. He's not really a vehicle, he's just kind of a punch man. There we go. But yeah, it's a lot of dodging, a lot of giant cross AoEs, that kind of thing. Kind of everything all at once at you. Not too difficult, once again, once you get a handle of the way the squares work. But any one of those hits would wipe you. And of course, we've got our LB3. I can't remember when we use it on this fight. It is kind of tricky to try and figure out early on when you are safe to use it. Like right here, he would have been safe to use it as a what is that, a monk? But again, they're learning the fight. They don't know when the big safe sections are. But yeah, for that part, anytime he's casting Stonecrusher, you can generally assume that he's mostly focused on the tank, and you have at least a couple of seconds to catch a breather, just do some DPS, use your LB3s if you need to. Now, honestly, that's probably the best time to do it, is when he's doing something like that, is the Stonecrusher. Voice of the Land, that's the room-wide AoE. That's also another good point to go ahead and get it in. He's not going to be doing a whole lot of other mechanics for at least the next few seconds. There we go, and then find one of the cardinal directions there, and then find the safe one. Again, another order of operations, just don't rush it. Take your time, be patient. The Seismic Wave has a fairly decently long cast time, or at the very least, he doesn't cast it immediately, so you have more than enough time to get there before the blocks explode on you. There we go, and at 2%, I believe he goes ahead and uses it. No, once he jumps down, he'll use it. But yeah, and that was, like I said, about a 10.7, 10.8k run, so a lot of that is thanks to the dancers. Dancers, again, are extremely powerful, but yeah, this is probably one of my favorite fights so far. I had a really, really good time doing it. I hope you guys have as much fun as well. It is a lot of fun to learn, a lot of fun to listen to. It's just a lot of movement, keeps you engaged without necessarily being, over the top hard. Savage mode, we'll have to come back and see how that goes. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this series on the new Eden raids. Thanks as always for watching. I hope to make some more episodes of Talking the Red in the future. If you have any comments or suggestions on what you want to see, or any particular aspects about Red Mage, or really even the game in general that you want to talk about, just let me know. I am going to be doing a new player's guide, and really it'll be a whole series coming up over the next couple of weeks, really delving into each individual element of Final Fantasy XIV, from the UI to combat to questing, to really give brand new players and sprouts a good breakdown of what to expect in the game. I had a great time in Shadowbringers, and it seems like we're getting a lot of new players in, so let's show them what a great community we've got. As always, thanks a ton for watching, and see you next time.